In this video, I'm going to start off with a very provocative question. How much does it really cost to start a brand new life with data we found on the dark web? If we wanted to, quote unquote, pull off a Walter White. Well, the answer is about $3,000. And so in this video, we're going to look at data such as social security numbers, credit cards, loyalty accounts, driver's license, and passports, just to name a few. How much are they bought and sold for on the dark web? Along with services such as exploit kits and distributed denial of service attacks. The pricing information here is largely provided by a number of different case studies from different vendors, along with some of my own anecdotal experience within the dark web. So let's start off with a social security number, which is really the fundamental building block of most people's identity. That can be roughly around $5, and sometimes as low as $1. Credit and debit cards, well, it depends on how much information is attached to that credit or debit card number. If it has a CVV, date of birth, bank ID, it's roughly around $20. If it has what's known as the fulls and info package, meaning that the seller supplies all the details about the card and its owner, so things such as full name, billing address, payment card number, expiration date, along with the SSN and mother's maiden name and date of birth, that can range from anywhere from $30 to $65 generally. Debit cards, closer to the $60 range. Additionally, some actors organize their fulls and info for sale based on credit scores. The higher the score, obviously the higher the price. For example, a fulls in with a credit score of 700 or higher can typically be priced at around $40. Actors will often try to get $60 for credit cards that are in the 700 or higher range, while if you have an 800 or better, but it could potentially be as much as $80. Next, looking at online payment services such as PayPal. The value of your PayPal depends on the availability of your account balance. So your PayPal details can be sold for as little as $50 and can increase to over $1,000 depending on the balances. Next up is loyalty accounts. Loyalty accounts, of course, similar to online payment services, can be based on how many quote-unquote points you have available in your loyalty account. Now, these can be airline miles, they can be hotel points, but figure if you have about 100,000, obviously not all points are equal. Different loyalty programs, point values can vary a little bit, but let's just say for simplicity's sake, if you have about 100,000 loyalty points, that'll transfer to about $20 or so in terms of being sold on the dark web. Subscription services, things like your Amazon account, British Airways, Facebook, even Fortnite or Netflix can be sold on the dark web for as little as $10 a month. Education and diplomas. So, you weren't able to get into Oxford growing up, but you want to have that Oxford diploma hanging on your wall, anywhere from $100 to $400. Driver's license is also another big one. That can be around about $20. Passports. Now, passports really depend on how the mechanism that they're being sold. And what I mean by that is there's three different types. So there's scanned passports, which typically range from anywhere from $5 to $65. There's passport templates. That is really just the shell of different countries' passports that you would have to actually fill in. That can be anywhere from $29, $30 range to about $90. And then there's actual physical passports that are stolen. And those can be in the range of several $1,000, $3,000 to $5,000. U.S. passports are available within cyber communities primarily in those three formats. Next up is medical records. Medical records have one of the highest payoffs for vendors on the black market. Estimates from experts say the resale value of a medical record is anywhere from $70 to $100. One new trend is stealing the identities of doctors as of late. This data is selling on the dark web for about $500. Documents include malpractice insurance documents, medical diplomas, doctor's licenses, DEA licenses. Using this stolen information, they can forge the identities of doctors and submit fraudulent insurance claims or obtain prescriptions for controlled drugs such as opioids. So this one is definitely on the rise. And then the final, kind of the 10th one I want to look at is just general login credentials of non-financial institutions. So those can be in the cents to $1 range. Next up, I'm going to look at 3 different services, one being DDoS, the next being exploit kits, and the third being a remote desktop. So DDoS attacks come in many different flavors. You can rent DDoS attacks based on the day or based on on just how many minutes you want it to run. And it often can be dependent on the type of protocol or operating system or devices you're trying to attack. So for example, renting an HTTP DDoS for IoT botnets, that can be about $25 a day or about 35 cents for 10 minutes. Renting HTTP DDoS on Windows-based devices can be about $50 a day. Renting UDP DDoS layer botnet systems can be about $100 a day. And 3 hours of DDoS botnet attacks, with roughly 200,000 requests per second, can be roughly around $35 a day. So I don't think the different price points really what matters here. What matters here is that it's cheap, first of all, and 2, that there are different ways to rent these out, whether it be by the minute or by the day. Next is exploit kits. So exploit kits are things that can be loaded on different devices to make them vulnerable or exfiltrate information. Daily rentals can be anywhere from $80 to $100 a day for various exploit kits. Weekly rentals, $500 to $700, or monthly rentals in the $1,000 to $2,000 range. RDP, remote desktop, is a Microsoft proprietary protocol used often by systems administrators to remotely log into machines. The vendor Flashpoint did a really good analysis on this, and they found different categories of RDPs. Some of them are country specific, some are operating system specific, some are specific to whether it's for bank drops or carding. And the cost varies based on these things. So in any country, RDP is roughly $26. Hacked remote desktops are $35. US bank drop RDP with PayPal credentials is $500. PayPal with credit card it fulls in plus an RDP is $250 to $350. So different categorizations, different price points. Next up, what drives the cost of all these different data points? And really there's 4 things that I found that I believe drive cost on the dark web. The first is demand. What type of data is being sold and what is the demand for that data. So things like, passports, social security numbers, they really kind of underpin someone's identity. And there's a lot of demand for that type of information, specifically login credentials. Login credentials will always have really the most demand because login credentials can often unlock and be a way to continuously victimize people over and over again to continue to exfiltrate more and more data. The next is the supply of the data. So there are lots of login credentials. There's lots of credit cards with all the data breaches. So this does suppress pricing. The third item is the balance on the account, if it's applicable for that particular data item. So things like loyalty accounts, online payment services, your bank account, credit card and debit card limits. So those things increase. The higher they are, the more assets the more points, the more cash, the higher the credit card spending limit, the more valuable it is to sell. And then the final one is limits and reuse. So for example, you can look at a passport and let's say a gift card. A gift card doesn't have much reuse. It's generally a single-use item. It's used one time and then it's done. Whereas something like a passport has continual reuse, and that item can be potentially resold again and again. And especially currently today, there aren't a lot of mechanism to alert on things like passports being stolen. And so because of that, that has a lot of value. Also, there is, in terms of the craftsmanship, things like debit and credit card, those numbers are just purely stolen. Something like a passport can be forged. And so there's often a little bit of expertise around that increases the cost of that item being sold. The last thing to look at is just trends the last, let's say, 3 to 5 years. Looking at those core kind of 10 data elements we discussed, what's the pricing been like? And generally, most of it has been fairly steady. But the one thing that does stand out is stolen credit card data has jumped significantly by anywhere from 50 to 83%, depending on different statistics you read over the last several years. And it's believed a lot of this is due to increased risk and loss of escrow services such as Alpha Bay and Hansa markets, which were taken down. So just like economics 101, as the supply dries up, the prices do increase. And we've definitely seen this happen around credit cards specifically. So back to the first question that started the video. How much does it cost to start a brand new life with data from the dark web? Well, let's just do some back-of-the-napkin calculations. So figure a new passport that we're going to get a template for and maybe hire someone to help forge a really good passport for us. Figure, let's just say $2,000. A driver's license are around $20, but we're going to try to find someone who's going to maybe forge it to match our passport. So let's add another $200 to that, along with a new SSN. So figure about $225, $250 total there. Now, of course, we need some cash with this new life. So let's say a high-end PayPal account with several $1,000s in it. So that'll be about $500. A high-end credit card, $70, and a high-end debit card with great credit scores attached, about another $80 there. So our new financial life is about $650 total. So if we look at the total of passport, driver's license, social security, our new financial life, and you know what, let's throw in a new diploma from a high-end university for about $200. Our grand total is roughly $3,075. As always, be sure to like, subscribe, and provide comments.